Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Tracy, and if you don't know me, I have a passion for upcycling clothing. I have a small summer thrift flip that's great for beginners. I'm going to be teaching you guys how to transform a boring wrap dress into a really cute backless summer dress. And we all know that crochet garments are very trendy this summer, so I'm going to show you guys how to thrift flip a crochet cardigan and transform it into a cardigan and cami set. I'm going to teach you guys how to create this halter as well, which I did a tutorial on last summer, but I wanted to show you how to do it with the scarf. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. This is the dress on the dress form, so go ahead and put it on or on a dress form if you have one, and just grab some safety pins and just start pinning like at the strap point and just down your side and underarm. So like I went pretty low, so I'd get a low scooped back. So I'm going pretty low on the side and at the center back as well. So I've just placed safety pins to mark where I want to cut. And you're just going to take the wrap dress and just place it flat on the table. Grab your scissors and just start cutting at the shoulder seams first. Next, grab the dress and then just start folding the side seams together. So you fold it so you have the fold at the center front and the fold on the center back. And you want to just place pins and just pin everything in place so everything's lined up and you get an even cut on both sides. And I hope you can see where my safety pins are. I'm like pointing at them. I misplaced my water soluble marker, but you want to just take your ruler and just kind of like smooth out and connect those safety pins, if that makes sense. So I did not have that marker, so I'm just using my curved ruler, and it's kind of hard to see because it's clear, and I'm just kind of like figuring out how I'm going to connect these marks. So I'm just taking my ruler and using my rotary cutter and just kind of eyeballing this. I definitely recommend using some chalk or just a marker to mark it before you cut. It makes it a lot easier than trying to just kind of figure it out. And give enough room for seam allowance, so above those safety pins leave about like a 1/2 inch to an inch depending on how much you want to hem. And that's what my neckline looks like after being cut. Now we can just take the safety pins out of this dress and just open it up, and you can see that you have a low back now. And I'm just going to take this to my overlock machine and clean finish that neckline, but you don't have to because it's a knit and it doesn't fray, so this is optional. My neckline is completely finished with the overlock, and I'm just going to take this and fold it under a 1/2 inch for my seam allowance. As you can see, it's gonna like match perfectly with the already finished front neckline. So I'm just folding a 1/2 inch seam allowance and just pinning it all the way around the neckline. And I just grab some contrast thread and a hand sewing needle and just baste this in place because I don't want to sew with a double needle with a lot of pins. It just makes it a lot difficult to use that needle when there's a lot of pins. So I'm just basting it to make my life easier when I take it to the sewing machine. After I baste the neckline in place, I just take it to my sewing machine and I've set up my twin needle. If you need an in-depth tutorial on how to thread and use your twin needle, I have linked my Sewing for Beginners tutorial and I go over it. So I'm just sewing with a like 3/8 of an inch seam allowance so it catches both layers. The underarm and the back neckline are completely hemmed, so now I'm just removing that basting stitch, and look how great this double needle looks. And now we can just move on to the hem of the dress, and I'm just lining up the hem and pinning it in place so I get an even cut. I'm grabbing my ruler and just marking 4 inches from the hem and taking my rotary cutter and just cutting the hem completely off. And now that I've done that, you're going to just repeat the same way we hemmed the armhole and back neckline. And after I've overlocked the hem, I'm just folding it up a 1/2 inch and just repeating the same steps as before. With the scrap fabric, I'm just cutting out a 2-inch strip that is about 16 inches long, and I'm going to go ahead and just overlock around the whole perimeter, but you don't have to because stretch fabric doesn't fray. So after I've overlocked it, I'm taking the dress, and as you can see, there's like one side on a wrap dress that's usually like gathered with elastic, so I just turn it inside out. I grab that 2-inch strip and just place it right below where that gather ends, and I just fold it a 1/4 inch at the top so it's clean finished, and I line it up in the center of that side seam so it's perfectly even on either side, and I just pin it in place. When I get to the end of that strip, I just fold it up 1/4 inch and just pin it in place so it lines up cleanly with the hem. And then I'm just going to take it to my sewing machine and stitch 2 lines on either side of that. And then I'm going to stitch right in the center to create a tunnel for a drawstring, if that makes sense. And I stitched that strip down so you can see the stitching on either side of that seam. And now I'm going to go back in and stitch right into that seam so I can have like a tunnel for the drawstring to feed through. I'm using a regular straight stitch, and don't forget to back tack. The scrap fabric left from the hem, I'm just cutting at the side seam, and I have like one big strip now. So I'm going to just take my rotary cutter and ruler and cut out 1.5 inch strips, and I'm cutting out 3 of these, so 1 for the drawstring and then 2 of them are going to be for the straps. I'm folding them right sides together and just going to my overlock machine and sewing this spaghetti. If you need an in-depth tutorial on how to make spaghetti, I will link one. So you can just use your regular straight stitch machine for this. You don't have to overlock your spaghetti. Just make sure you're using like a small stitch setting. I just take a safety pin to turn all of my spaghetti inside out. After turning one spaghetti inside out, I just use the safety pin and just feed it through the 2 channels we made on the dress to gather the side. So I'm just feeding it up and going down, and then you can see how you can just like pull on these strings and you kind of just create more gathers along the rest of the dress. Now for my favorite part, I got these rings, and I got a decorative ring. So I have a brown ring and a really like pretty crystalled ring that I like put together. So I'm just connecting them with the spaghetti at the top and pinning that in place. And you can see I created it to be like one ring, so it's going to be like sewn together, if that makes sense. So I wanted to add like that extra detail, and I'm just taking that strap point of the dress and just kind of like feeding it through those 2 rings at once, and then I just pin that strap point in place. And I'm going to just hand sew this down because it's going to be a lot easier than trying to put this under the machine with those 2 rings. And I just repeat this to the other strap point as well. And now I just like trimmed off about like 1.5 inch like spaghetti pieces off of those straps because they were pretty long, so I could take from them. And I just fold it in half and just stitch them at the side seam so I have something to cross the straps through in the back. So I just put these tabs in so I can tighten the dress so it fits nicely. And crochet garments are very trendy this summer, so I picked up this crochet long cardigan at the thrift store and I upcycle it into a cardigan and top set. So I'll show you the pattern I used, which is the silk lace cami pattern, and I just cropped the cardigan and hemmed it like one of my previous videos. Working with a crochet textile, you want to just be very mindful that these yarns are very delicate, so right after you cut anything, you want to immediately go and serge your ends or do a zigzag stitch so nothing unravels, because it's very delicate and it could unravel, so you want to be very cautious. So you want to just like overlock everything, and the way you're going to sew your seams is just with like a small straight stitch, and you're just going to sew your pieces together with your ends overlocked beforehand. Crochet fabric reminds me of lace, and I like to have the same motif on my cups, and I just like everything to be mirrored image. It just looks more expensive. And after I cut all of my pieces, I just proceed to overlock them and then just follow this sewing tutorial on the silk lace cami video for all of the sewing, and minus the lace of course. So you're going to just add like an elastic trim at the underarms and elastic straps like I've shown in my cardigan and cami set video, so I'll link that as well. And that's how I created this set. For that backless like halter fringe top, I just fold a scarf in half at the hem where the fringe is, and I just take that pattern and just place it right on that scarf and just cut it out. And if you want a tutorial on how to pattern this like cup for this top and like how to sew it, I have linked the summer like v-neck top, I think that's what it's called, but I'll link it like right there, and I give you a full tutorial on how to create this top. But I just wanted to bring it back because it's a great summer top and it's almost summer. If you make any of these, tag me on Instagram. I'd love to share, and thank you guys so much for watching.